Okay, so Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our virtual midweek program. Today we'll be covering the topic of serving the Lord, Dasyam, part 7 in our series. And our guest speaker will be His Grace Shyam Bihari Prabhu. So before we continue, I'll just give us a brief introduction on Shyam Bihari Prabhu. Many of you may already know him as he has been a member of our community for a fairly long time. But for those who may not be familiar with him, as he hasn't spoken on this forum for some time, I'll give a brief introduction and then we'll hand it over to His Grace Shyam Bihari Prabhu. So Shyam Bihari Prabhu was introduced to Krishna consciousness in the year 2000. He took first initiation in the year 2010 by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj and second initiation in the year 2012. Shyam Bihari Prabhu has been a vital member of the ISKCON Atlanta community. He has organized major events for the temple. He has ran the Sunday school for quite some time as well, and is currently leading a Bhakti Vriksha group in North Atlanta. He's also coordinated and managed many big festivals at the temple like Ratha Yatras and different programs in and around Atlanta. Like I said, Prabhu hasn't spoken on this forum for a while, so we would like to humbly welcome him back. And we are very happy and we are very glad. We are extremely ecstatic to have him speaking on this forum, and we are very excited to hear from Prabhu as well. So yes, without any further ado, today we would go straight into the class, no kirtan, and I will hand it over to Shyam Bihari Prabhu now. Prabhu, if you are ready, you may please continue. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Naveen Prabhu, Dandavash Pranam. Thank you so much for your kind words, though undeserving. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It is my good fortune to have this opportunity to be able to speak a few words on this most exalted topic of Dasyam. Honestly, I do not even know why I have been given this opportunity to talk on this subject matter. I'm not a good orator. I'm not steeped in knowledge of the scriptures, but I highly respect the organizers. They're putting in so much effort to give this knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam to the devotees. And so out of this respect, I accepted this opportunity to speak on this subject matter. So please forgive me if I do state something which does not sit well with you. So speaking on this subject of Dasyam, we have to put it in context first with Prahlad Maharaj's teachings in the Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 7. So he states, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. So in these 9 limbs of bhakti, Dasyam appears as the 7th of the 9. And this Dasyam, according to Srila Prabhupada, is one of the most important of these 9 limbs of bhakti. So I'll just take a minute to read a very short paragraph that uh, Prabhupada gives in the 7th canto. First of all, for this verse, Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. Now, Prabhupada, for this particular Dasyam, has one very special paragraph in this purport. And he says, there is the following statement in regard to assisting the Lord as a servant. After many, many thousands of births, when one comes to understand that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, one can deliver others from this universe. Once again, when one comes to understand that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, one can deliver others from this universe. If one simply continues to think that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, even without performing any other process of devotional service. Again, please, without performing any other process of devotional service, he can attain full success. For simply by this feeling, one can perform all 9 processes of devotional service. So you can see how Prabhupada is qualifying Dasyam as being the Moola Bhav. Moola Bhav means the essence of all these 9 limbs. So Shravanam Kirtanam is first, then comes Vishnu Smaranam, then comes Pada Sevanam. Now of these 3 that we have mentioned, if there is no Dasyam in it, then that cannot be performed properly. For example, Shravanam Kirtanam, one has to serve the holy names sincerely. And when one serves the holy name sincerely, then Nam Prabhu is actually responding and Krishna reveals himself to us. So it starts, the basis of it is Dasyam really, because you have to serve that holy name in that mood of Dasyam as the servant of the holy names. And when you serve in that mood, like Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saisnuna Mani Naman Dena Kirtaniya Sadhari. So the main thing is a Mani Naman Dena, not giving expecting respect and giving respect to everyone. Then you can chant the holy names in a very humble frame of mind. Dasyam means to serve in a humble frame of mind. So one has to be able to serve this holy name in a very humble frame of mind in order to be able to sincerely perform Shravanam Kirtanam. Same thing is with Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam, one has to remember the Lord constantly, be in remembrance of the Lord constantly. And this also requires a very humble frame of mind. And that comes about with the desire to serve without any motivation, without any expectations. And that is the reason why Dasyam is the underlying bhava, the underlying essence of Vishnu Smaranam too. Then Padasevanam, of course, requires service unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is steeped in Dasyam. Archanam Vandanam, deity worship, or whether you perform, uh, or whether you pray very sincerely to the Lord in Vandanam, all that requires a humble frame of mind. And that Dasyam is the underlying essence of all these practices. And that is why you see Prabhupada is saying these 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. He says, for simply by this feeling, what feeling? The feeling of dasyam, of humility, of being the servant of the Lord. When we have that kind of feeling, then one can perform all 9 processes of devotional service. So this is a very powerful purport of Srila Prabhupada, and you can see how much weightage he gives to Dasyam, because Dasyam is the underlying essence of the entire creation, not only creation in the material world, but also in the spiritual world itself. So if you look at the rasas in the spiritual world, we have got 5 primary rasas. Of those 5, we have first the Shanta rasa, then we have Dasyam, we have Vatsalya, we have Sakhya, and we have Madhurya rasa. These are the 5 primary rasas that are there in the spiritual world. Of course, Rupa Goswami describes in the Nectar of Devotion in great detail how there are so many supplementary rasas also, because there's a mix of all these rasas. There's a lot of other bhavas that come and mix with these rasas. And so there are so many other supplementary rasas too. But let's focus on these 5 primary rasas. So the basis again of all these 5 rasas is service, seva, or dasyam. The seva in the mood of the servant. Because without that, one cannot be involved in these rasas for the pleasure of Krishna. So if we take, for example, let's go one by one. Let's take, for example, Shanta Rasa. Now in Shanta Rasa, that's a pretty high rasa where one has completely detached himself from all material attachments and attached himself to Krishna. And so in that Shanta rasa, one may not have the kind of bhava that you have in Vatsalya or in Sakhya or in Madhurya rasa, but it plays a very important part in Krishna's leelas. For example, when Krishna is performing Rasa Leela, or even when he is in a kund with the gopis and Radharani, the Shanta Rasa is also is a very important part of it, because the entire environment, the auspiciousness of that environment in which Krishna performs his rasa with Radharani or with the Ashtasakis or with the other gopis, that environment is becoming very auspicious because of the trees, the flowers, the deer, the cuckoo, the peacocks, all of those are present in that Leela of Krishna. If you can just imagine for a minute, there's this very sweet wind blowing, and this wind is blowing just at the perfect, I should say, in the perfect way that it's not creating any kind of disturbance. Instead, it's blowing through like in whistling, you can say, between the branches and the leaves. The leaves are rustling, the branches are shaking, and you have the peacock who's dancing, and you have the cuckoo who is singing, then you have the deers there. They all are in the Shantaras, but they are creating such a wonderful atmosphere in which Krishna can enjoy with the gopis. Now, in this Shantaras, the underlying bhava is dasyam, because they're all mindful of the pleasure of Krishna. And so all their actions, everything is mindful of giving pleasure to Krishna, which is what Dasyam is all about. Dasyam means serving Krishna for his pleasure. And so Dasyam is also inherent in this Shantarasa, because all of them are involved in serving Krishna for his pleasure. Then you come to Vatsalya Ras. In Vatsalya Ras, you see Mother Yashoda is taking care of Krishna with her life and soul. So much so that when Krishna goes out to tend to the cows, she's in complete anxiety. She's worried that my Lala, he has got feet so soft like butter, and these rocks and thorns and all, they're so sharp and so ruthless. They're going to tear my Krishna's feet apart. That's her anxiety. And until Krishna returns, she's continuously in that anxiety. So she's always looking towards Krishna, because Krishna is the center of her life. And as you know, when Damodar Leela happens, at that time, she was in anxiety as to why Krishna is going to the other gopis' houses and stealing butter. What is it that I am not doing in my service to Krishna, because of which he has to go and look for butter in others' houses? And so she determines that there is something lacking in her seva. And so what does she do? She immediately, on that day of Diwali, she tells all her maids who were attending to engage in other duties, so that she alone can serve Krishna. And so she gets the milk from the most precious cows that Nand Maharaj has, and she is taking great care, boiling those milk, preparing for the best sweets that she can give to Krishna. And we know the whole Damodar Leela. I'm not going to go fully into that. But the essence of it, the bottom line of it, is that mood of Dasyam. Even Yashoda Maya is serving in that mode of Dasyam. She's always thinking about what she can do in order to increase the pleasure of Krishna, how she can serve Krishna so that Krishna may be happy. She's not mindful of her situation. She's not mindful of what troubles she has to take. She's always mindful that whatever she does, it should please Krishna. And so you can see that that Dasyam is present in the Vatsalya Ras also. Then you go to Sakhya Ras, or you go to Madhurya Ras, the friends of Krishna, the gopis of Krishna, for them, Krishna is their life. They have no other life but Krishna. And so day and night, they want to be with Krishna, they want to play with Krishna, they want to serve Krishna. Everything for them is Krishna and Krishna alone. And so you can see that this dasyam is become the most inherent part of all the rasas. I shouldn't say is become, but it is. The Vedas say that at some point, all the jivatmas, they separated from Krishna. Now, there is no time in the spiritual world, as we all know. So there is no timeline that can be put when this happened. And so the Vedas don't say that. They just say that at some point, this happened. So all these jivatmas, they are part and parcel of Krishna. Yet Krishna is full. Om Purnamada Purnamidam. He is complete still. But each of these separated parts from Krishna, all these living entities have a special relationship with Krishna. Krishna has a distinct individual relationship with each and every living entity. And each of us have a certain service that we perform for the pleasure of Krishna, each of us. So when we left Krishna and we came to this material world, we really actually deprived him of that service that we perform for his pleasure. Now, does that mean that Krishna is the loser because we left that service and came? No, because he's Om Purnamada Purnamidam. He's full, always full. And his Atmaram is always satisfied. So who are the losers? We are the losers. We lost out when we gave up that service and came to this material world. But that service to Krishna that each and every one of us are entitled to when we return back to the spiritual world, that itself is in the bhava of dasyam. It's in the bhava of dasyam. So the entire spiritual world is also built with the essence of service, seva. Seva is the natural constitution of the soul. The soul is only happy when it is serving. It is never happy when it is served. It always wants to serve. And so that is the constitutional position of the soul. Even when the soul gets liberation, gets moksha, and goes to Brahma Jyoti, how long does the soul remain there? I mean, it may be in peace and moksha for some time, but after that, it becomes restless because it's got no service there. It has nobody to serve there. And so then it has to again come back. And so the constitutional position of the soul is to serve. It has to serve. There is no other option for the soul. That is how it is. It is part and parcel of Krishna, and it is only happy when it is serving Krishna with complete unselfish, or I should say selfless desire for the pleasure of Krishna. That is when the soul finds its permanent happiness. That is when it finds its constitutional position. Its constitutional position is to serve Krishna selflessly without any desire. Anya bilashita shunyam. Anya means none other. What is none other? Other than Krishna. Then it's none other. So Anya bilashita means that abhilashita which is only Krishna and none other. So when Anya bilashita is shunyam, then only we can get pleasure. The soul can get pleasure in serving Krishna. Now, if we come to the material world, in the material world also, Dasyam is inherent. It's inherent in every living entity, except that it's contaminated because of the false ego coming into the picture. This Dasyam, which is supposed to be for the pleasure of Krishna, becomes pleasure for our own mind and senses. Then that Dasyam is not really Dasyam. It's not selfless. It becomes selfish, right? So in this material world is also Dasyam. So before I go into that, let's look at some of the great personalities. The very first personality that you can look at to understand Dasyam is Brahma. When Brahma appears from the womb of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, right? At that time, he has no idea what he is supposed to do. He has no idea where he is, and he has no idea what he is supposed to do and how he is supposed to do it. By the mercy of the Lord, when he meditates upon the Lord guides him and tells him what is his role and how he's supposed to do it. And at that time, Brahma offers two very beautiful prayers to Garbhodakshai Vishnu, which is a very fundamental prayer because it kind of helps us understand our position, because our position is not different from that of Brahma. And so Brahma asks for two benedictions from Lord Vishnu. He says, one, when I'm performing this service, may I always be in remembrance of you and know that you are the primary creator and I am the secondary creator as an instrument of service to you. That is the first benediction that I want, that I should always be in remembrance that you are the primary creator and I'm secondary. And besides that, the second benediction that I want in order to perform this seva for you is that I should never develop any pride. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very beautifully described how Brahma prays to Lord Vishnu. He's very scared that, like the other living entities, he may develop pride because of his role in creation. And so he's begging the Lord that please help me and always keep me level-headed so that I never lose sight that you're the primary creator and I'm the secondary creator, and I don't develop pride as a result of service to you. This is Dasyam. This is the bhava of Dasyam. One must understand that the Lord is primary and we are secondary. And in our service to the Lord, we must be selfless and not expect anything. And be very careful that we do not develop pride in our service to Krishna. Because when Krishna uses us in our service, sometimes he glorifies us. Sometimes he gives us such a big position. Sometimes he gives us so much recognition. It is very easy for us to fall into that trap and become proud, and then we fall down in our service. And so we can see from Brahma's prayer that he foresees that his service to Krishna could lead to this kind of situation. And so at the very outset, he's begging the Lord that please make sure that I do not develop any pride, and I'm always in remembrance of the fact that you are the primary creator and I'm the secondary creator. I am just an instrument of your mercy. You are the one who's acting through me. And this bhav, when we have this kind of bhava, because Krishna is bhavagrahi, we may commit a lot of mistakes in what we do, but that is not what's important to Krishna. Krishna doesn't care whether we do something perfectly or we do it imperfectly. Our effort should be the best. We must do it as best as we can, but the results are up to Krishna, because Krishna clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita that you are entitled to perform work, but the results is decided by me. So in that case, if Krishna is deciding the results, then we should take shelter of Krishna and be happy with whatever the results, as long as we did our best. And that is what Krishna sees. Krishna sees our sincerity. Krishna sees what was our intention. And when we perform that seva with the intention, the only intention that it should be pleasing to Krishna and that Krishna should be served by me selflessly. With that intention, when we serve, then the results will automatically come, because Krishna is the doer. Krishna is involved. He sees that this person is very sincere and Krishna does the rest. So Dasyam means always performing activity for the pleasure of Krishna. Otherwise, it is not Dasyam. Then it becomes Swayam, for myself. It is no longer Dasyam, right? So we must be mindful of that. And so we must always serve, perform our devotional service with this mood that I want to perform this service for the service of Krishna and Krishna alone. That makes it Dasyam. That makes it pleasing to Krishna. So this Dasyam again is so instrumental that without talking about some other examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it would be not fair to not talk about these characters, I should say, or these wonderful souls within the Srimad Bhagavatam who are representing Dasyam. One example that comes to mind is that of this great demon who is known as Vritrasura. I'm sure you all have heard of Vritrasura. He's legendary. He's one of the most important characters in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was, in his previous life, he was Maharaj Chitraketu. Now, in that previous life, he performed service for Krishna, for Lord Vishnu, and he achieved the darshan of Sankarshna. He actually achieved the darshan of Sankarshna, Ananta, Lord in Ananta. And he received a benediction from Lord Ananta that he was to be the king of the Vidyadharas and he could travel everywhere. And as you all know, one time while he was traveling, he came across Shiva and Parvati, Mother Parvati. And unfortunately, by the mercy of Krishna, who wanted to use him as an instrument, he actually, his attitude when he saw Mother Parvati sitting on Shiva's lap was something that was not very pleasant and pleasing to Mother Parvati. And as a result, she cursed him to become a demon. And then, as we know, the story goes on that Vitrasura appeared from a fire sacrifice, and he was so massive, such a big demon, that he was the king of the demons. And as the king of the demons, he still had a lot of divine qualities. Now, why I bring up the story of Vritrasura, and this is my opinion, some of you may not agree with it, but at least it does coincide with me, at least, because I have so many demoniac qualities, and by Krishna's mercy, I've been introduced to devotees. I always look at Vritrasura as being very representative, representing us in this material world. Very much, because here is this wonderful demon, wonderful in the sense that he has such wonderful divine qualities. So he's a demon, he's actually fighting King Indra for his kingdom. And here is King Indra, who has achieved the blessings of Lord Vishnu, who has got this wonderful thunderbolt that comes from the bones of the Dichi. Very powerful, very, very powerful, and also empowered by Lord Vishnu, who told Indra that if you use this against Vritrasura, he's sure to die with this thunderbolt. So here he is in this battle with Vritrasura, and Vritrasura is so powerful that he strikes Airavata, his elephant, on the head. And Airavata falls down and Indra falls with him, and that weapon also falls on the ground. At this moment, it was very easy for Vritrasura to just have finished off Indra. He's a demon and nobody could have chastised him. But here is Vritrasura, who doesn't do that. Instead, he follows the religious principles and he stops his battle with Vritrasura. He waits for, with Indra. He waits for Indra to revive himself, to revive Airavata and be ready to fight again. In fact, Vritrasura is actually encouraging Indra to have faith in his weapons, because he knows that that thunderbolt is supposed to kill him. He knows that that thunderbolt is made from the bones of the Dechi, and he knows how powerful it is. And yet he invites Indra to get up and fight, to have faith in that thunderbolt, to use it and to fight Vritrasura. So why is Vritrasura doing that? The only reason he is doing that is because he has one purpose in mind. More than getting the kingdom of Indra, more than getting the kingdom of, he already has the kingdom of the demons, the earth planet, being the king of all the three planets, planetary systems. He has one other desire, which is his primary desire, and that is the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. He knows that it is Lord Vishnu who has empowered Indra, and it is Lord Vishnu's desire that in this battle with Indra, Vritrasura must die. And knowing this, he wants to please Lord Vishnu at any cost. He's ready to die as long as it pleases Lord Vishnu. This is Dasyam, because one doesn't care for his desires. He doesn't care for his pleasure. All he cares about is how through my actions I can please Lord Vishnu. In fact, if we read his 4 verses, these 4 verses that appear in Canto 6, where he prays to the Lord, those prayers are so sincere that if we just read these prayers and recite these prayers every day, it will keep us focused on our bhakti. It is so strong, it is so beautiful, because it is totally representing our situation. It's our desire too, being the devotees of Lord Krishna, having been blessed with this opportunity, that we are practicing in whatever way little we can, we are practicing this devotional service that has been given to us by our most beloved Srila Prabhupada, who took so much trouble. He practically in his old age, he gave up his life so that he could give us life, so that he could give us devotional service. And so having got this mercy, having got this good fortune, we should have the same desire as Vritrasura has, is that every action that we perform should be for the pleasure of Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna alone. And so the prayers that Lord Vritrasura offers on this battlefield with Indra is very, very important. It's very instrumental to our bhakti. So I'm going to read the first prayer, which is what is most important to us. In that prayer, you can see that desire for service, the Dasyam. You can see the Dasyam mood of Vritrasura coming through in this prayer. So he says, Aham hare tava padai kamula dasanudaso bhavitasmi bhuya manasmareta supater gunamste granitava karma karotu kaya. What does that mean? He says, Oh my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? So let me stop there. Let me read that again. Will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? Now, the key word here in this whole statement is the word again. Not the entire statement, but the word again. Why is it so key? Because again means there is some history behind it. It's a repetition. Whenever you use the word again, means it's a repetition. There is something before it, right? And what happened before, you are again means you're doing it again, or you're practicing it again, or something is happening again, right? Again means there is some history. And that is what Vitrasura is saying. Will I again be able to? Again. That means he was a servant of the servants of the Lord, and now he has fallen away from it. Now, does that not represent us too? Because we ourselves are in that state where we have given up that service to the servant of the servants of the Lord. Today, we are at that position. We would not be in this material world if we had not given up that service due to our own failings. And so we are here today in this material world because we gave up that service. And so Vritrasura is actually echoing that exact situation that we went through, that we were the servant of the servant and we gave it up. And now here's Vritrasura also is saying, again will I be able to be a servant of your eternal servants. Because he in his previous birth as Chitraketu, he was dedicated to serving the Lord. Due to some misfortune or due to the will of the Lord, as we say, because not a blade of grass moves without the mercy of the Lord, without the supervision of the Lord. Krishna clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyatesya Chacharam. Not even a blade of grass moves without the Lord's mercy. So just like Parikshit Maharaj did something that he would never have done, but it was the Lord's desire. Same way, Vritrasura was put into a situation where he got cursed, where he would never actually have behaved in that way, where he laughed or smiled at the situation of Mother Parvati sitting on Lord Shiva's lap. And so he got cursed, right? That was also, if we look at it, if we look at everything as an opportunity, that was also a mercy of the Lord. Because without his mercy, nothing happens. And so he lost his opportunity to serve the Lord because he was, as Maharaj Chitraketu, very dedicated to his service and very dedicated to serving for the pleasure of the Lord. And so here, as demon Vritrasura, he is reminiscent. It's the Lord's mercy that he remembers that he used to serve the Lord and his servants. And that is what he is desiring again. And that is why he's saying, will I again be able to be a servant of your servants who finds shelter only at your lotus feet? Our whole bhakti, everything that we are following is in the path of Rupa Goswami. In fact, we are said to be Rupanugas. We are following in the path of Rupa Goswami. And entire Acharya Gan from our Sampradaya, entire Acharya Gan is in the Dasya mode, complete Dasya mode. They don't know anything else but to be the servant of the servants. And so we're following in that path. And so as Rupa Goswami says, one must always be in remembrance of the Lord, and one must always perform every action for the pleasure of the Lord. And here Vitrasura is in that mood, in perfectly that mood that we are trying to inculcate in our sampradaya. And if we can develop that mood, then our return back to our service to the Lord in the spiritual world is guaranteed. So after having said that, he says, O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. Now here is another statement that is very significant, because until and unless we serve the servants of the Lord, it's very difficult for us to be able to be in the remembrance of the Lord and his form, his pastimes, his attributes. It's very difficult. Everything comes from seva. As we know, Krishna says, as we know, Mahaprabhu says, Sevan mukhe hi jevadhav swayam eva spuratyada. Right? Only through service, when a devotee engages favorably in devotional service, then only the Lord reveals himself. Then only through service only the Lord reveals himself. So until and unless we don't serve sincerely, we cannot expect to remember the Lord. We cannot expect to think about the Lord's wonderful pastimes. We cannot expect to see the Lord's form in our heart. All this is possible only through serving the Lord and serving his devotees. And this is the reason why Vitrasura is saying, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. He is showing us the path. He's saying that if you want to remember Krishna, if you want to serve Krishna, if you want to always be reminiscent of his form, pastimes, and his qualities, then you have to serve the servants of Krishna. You have to be in the Dasyam bhava. Without that, you cannot practice other bhavas, other limbs of bhakti, as well as you can't get the mercy of the Lord. You cannot get to see the form, the pastimes, and the activities of the Lord. And then he says, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. So that is bhakti really. My words always glorify those attributes. That is like vandanam, and my body engage in the loving service. That is deity worship, archanam. So all those attributes, they come when you are in the dasya mood and you're serving the Lord and his devotees. Very important fact is that it's easier to serve the Lord's devotees than it is to serve the Lord, because the Lord is not present before you. But then to serve the Lord's devotees also is not so easy. It's not easy as serving Krishna, but it's easier than serving Krishna, but yet it is most difficult because it requires a very humble frame of mind. And the other thing that comes forward is, how do you know who's the devotee of Krishna? Everyone who wears dhoti, kurta, who wears the tilak, who has kanthimala, and who has a shikha is a devotee of the Lord. But does that mean they are the only devotees of the Lord? If what Mahaprabhu says is that every living being is a form of Krishna, right? So if that is true, then everyone, every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, as we know. Then every living entity, if it is a part and parcel of Krishna, then they are worshipable. The Paramatma is in every living entity, not only in me, not only in you, wearing kurta and dhoti and tilak, is present in everyone. And so the bhava, the dasyam bhava should be to serve everybody. Seva should be instrumental to our very existence. That is what this whole creation is about, is seva. Whether you take material creation, whether you take spiritual creation, creation is about seva and nothing else. And so we must serve in that humble frame of mind everyone. not discriminating, not distinguishing, because that causes us to commit offenses. And so we must serve everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. And then and only then we will develop this perfection in Dasyam Bhav, and then we will be able to practice the 9 limbs of Bhakti and achieve the uh, lotus feet of the Lord. Again, in the Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a very wonderful phrase. He says, Rishikena Rishikesha Bhaktir Uchyate. Rishikena Rishikesha. Now, in this material world, it's become normal for everyone to serve their senses and mind. Everyone, if you look around, is so involved in serving their senses and mind instead of using their senses and mind in the service of Krishna. The whole social fabric is built around this concept in Kali Yuga, in this time, that one must serve one's mind and senses. If not, then the society looks upon you as weird. If you drive down any of the highways, if you see the wonderful big posters and all that they have, the essence of all of them is that you must engage in the satisfaction of your mind and senses. That's the bottom line of this society in this current time. And so, as we can see all around us, there is a total move away. Slowly, we are moving away from bhakti. We are moving away from Bhagwan. Atheism is so much on the rise, and anyone who practices any kind of religious principles is considered as something very strange, right? So one must be careful that one lives his life according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Without that, one is not leading a human life, but one is leading an animal life. There is no human life. We are two-legged animals. We are born two-legged animals, every one of us. Prabhupada says we are all Shudras when we are born, but we become human beings when we realize the purpose of life and we follow it as our goal. Only when we realize the purpose of life and we abide by it and we embrace it, then we are human beings. Otherwise, there's no difference between an animal and a human being. We're just two-legged animals, as Prabhupada very clearly defines. And so one must take up to service of the Lord, service to the Lord's devotees, and that is what is the perfection of human life, and that is what makes us human beings. So Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. This is what Prabhupada says, is that when the body, mind, and intelligence and the senses are engaged in the service of Krishna, then that is the perfection of our life. But in this, I actually coined a phrase which I want to share with you. It's just my phrase, and it may sound a little crude, but I just keep myself focused. I keep reminding myself that when you do Rishikena Swayam Sevanam, Rishikena Swayam Sevanam Rajyam Uchyate. So what does that mean? What that means is that when we are Swayam Sevanam, right? When we are serving ourselves, there's no Krishna in it, right? Rishikesha means all our minds and senses are involved in Swayam Sevanam. In my own service, then they put me in the mode of Rajaguna, Rajyam, Raja, king, right? So instead of Das, Anudas, it becomes Raja, Anudas. That means I am the king and I want to be the king of the kings. So I keep reminding myself and I stay focused by actually reminding myself that I am Das, Anudas. So we must be careful that we do not fall into that trap, because if we fall into that trap, then we have lost this opportunity in this human life. And this human life is so dear. We have received this human life after so many births that it's unaccountable, unlimited. We are very fortunate to be here today. We are even more fortunate that we have received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and through his mercy, we are able to perform some amount of bhakti, and through his mercy, maybe through our gurus and Prabhupada, we may find the lotus feet of Krishna in this lifetime. But we have to develop this mood of dasyam. That is very important. Only through the mode of dasyam can we flourish in our bhakti. Only through the mode of dasyam can we progress on the spiritual path and finally achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. So before I wrap up, the one thing I would like to mention is that our entire sampradaya, starting from Brahma all the way down to Srila Prabhupada, with of course our most munificent Mahaprabhu providing us the mercy through this movement. Our motto, our low, I should say for our sampradaya, the key words that we follow, right, is Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Dasa Dasa Dasanudas. This is our goal. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, this should be our only goal. Gopi Bharatur Padakamalayur Das 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 and Das. We want to be ultimately the servant of the servant of the servants of Krishna, who is the protector and caretaker of the gopis. So our ultimate goal should be that we return to the service of the gopis of Vrindavan as the servant of their servants. And please keep in mind that it is not important what service we have. What is important is that we are serving the gopis of Vrindavan who are involved 24/7 in the service of Krishna. And Krishna is aware of every single living entity. Otherwise, he would not be Krishna. Krishna is aware of every single living entity. He is aware of every single living entity's position. He is aware of every single living entity's service to him, and is aware of every single entity's bhava. And Krishna, that is why, also gets into this bhava of dasyam. Believe it or not, Krishna also gets into the bhava of dasyam. He does not only take service, he wants to serve the devotees. In fact, Prabhupada once described that there is a competition going on between the devotees and Krishna. They want to serve Krishna to his pleasure, and Krishna wants to serve the devotees back to their pleasure. And so they do even more service, and he increases his service and they increase their service. So there's a constant competition going on between the devotees and Krishna. That is Krishna. That is what makes Krishna Krishna, because he is always so compassionate to his devotees, and he's never forgetful of his devotees. He's always there. He's always there with them. Not even for a moment is Krishna separated from his devotees. And so that is what we are all aiming for. That is our whole purpose of practicing sadhana bhakti, is to ultimately come to the stage where we can serve his servants who are serving him so beautifully. Gopir Bharatur Padakamalayur Das 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 Anudas. And that is the core of our sampradaya. That is the main bhava of our sampradaya. If you see from Rupa Goswami to Bhakti Vinod Thakur, to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to Srila Prabhupada and our own gurus, that is the bhava. Seva is the bhava. To serve is the bhava. And to serve without any kind of expectations, selfless service. That is our whole bhakti. When we perform this in this mood, when Dasyam is in this mood of nothing for me, everything for Krishna, then we have perfected our human life. And then it is absolutely possible for Prabhupada to take us back. We may need to make it possible. We need to be at least, as Prabhupada once said, please chant your 16 rounds very sincerely and follow the 4 regulative principles, and I will take you back. He laid the very simple foundation for us to go back. And to do that, we have to be in the Dasyam mode and serve. We have to serve so that we can chant nicely, be very strict in our regulative principles, because otherwise we'll fall weak. Without association of devotees, without service to devotees, we'll be very weak. We'll not be able to maintain our regulative principles. We'll not be able to chant sincerely. So the bottom line is Dasyam. Always serve the devotees, take their association, be there, serve them with your heart and soul without any expectation. And then you will definitely see that Prabhupada will be there at the last moments. So with this, I would like to hand it over to the organizers. If there is any questions or any comments, I hope that I was able to share some of my realizations, however insignificant. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. It was really, really so amazing to hear from you and also to see you again after such a long time, looking so effulgent, Prabhu. And your class was really amazing. So many takeaway points. I see one hand raised. Her Grace Gita Mataji would like to ask a question. Mataji, if you like, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please
Hare
accept my
Krishna.
humble obeisances.
Dandavas
All glories
pranam,
to
all
Srila
glories to
Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful and enlightening lecture. And thank you for making me learn some more today. Thank you so much. I actually have two questions, if you don't mind. In your lecture, you mentioned that Krishna is present in all living entities as Paramatma, and so we should worship all living entities. If you could elaborate on that. And the second question was, of course, the whole lecture was about Dasyam. So how do we serve the devotees, especially in COVID times where we don't get to really meet them in person? So how do we serve them? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Gita Mataji, thank you so much for your questions. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer your questions because you're one of my most mentors and whose path I follow. And I've learned so much from your examples. But thank you. I'll try my best to answer your questions. If I fail in that respect, you please correct me. So the first part of it, how do we serve all living entities? The first service that we can perform to all living entities is to accept. The first and most foremost thing is to accept that all living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, and the Paramatma is present in everyone. Whether it is the smallest ant to the biggest elephant, until and unless we don't accept, we will not be able to respect them. And this is what is foundational in our service to all living entities. Today, if you look around, there is widespread cow slaughter. There is so little respect for animals. Hunting is widespread. People are eating meat that does not even make sense. Honestly, to me, at least, it doesn't make any sense. So until and unless we don't respect all living entities, until and unless we don't accept that the Jivatma is present in all living entities, until and at least until we don't imbibe it in us that all living entities are part and parcel of Krishna, until then we will not be able to respect them. So that's the first service that we can perform to living entities, is to accept them as living entities, respect them, and then in a broader image is also propagate this knowledge so that there's more respect and love for animals, and they are also treated as part of this society, as part of Krishna's creation, and they all also have a role in this material world. I was once reading a survey which was conducted by Harvard University, and Harvard University actually published this, and they said that the most dangerous species on the planet is the human species. If the human species is eliminated, this earth planet will flourish. And so that gives you an idea about how much we are disrespectful of other forms of life on this planet. We think that we are the only ones that matter. Everything else does not matter. So our first service to these animals would be to accept that they are living entities and part and parcel of Krishna, and then we respect them, and then only they will also be able to live peacefully in this planet with us, and we will also give them their space and they will give us our space. That is the greatest service that we can perform for these other living entities. And so to the second question that you asked was the Dasyam Bhava. Now, I somehow lost track of that question. If you don't mind, can you please repeat it, Gita Mataji?
Yeah, sure. So I wanted, you were talking about serving the devotees.
Yes, yes.
So, because we don't have personal association.
Yes. So this is a good question that was asked, and I'm going to fall back on something that my own Guru Maharaj once stated. He said that every challenge is an opportunity. So even this pandemic, if we look at it as an opportunity, then we can find ways by which we can serve devotees as well as increase our dependence on Krishna and increase our sadhana. So how do we serve devotees? First of all, there is this whole new world we live in, where we have this wonderful internet, like we are right here. Although we may not be face to face, but we are in association. We are listening to Krishna Katha, we are sharing Krishna Katha, we are discussing Krishna Katha. That is what is so important, that no matter what challenges come, we should not allow that to interfere with this association that we have from devotees. So our greatest service to the devotees in these times is to keep them focused in their Krishna consciousness through gatherings like this, through giving them association, through engaging them in talking about Krishna, about listening to Krishna. And then, of course, nothing is permanent. One day we will be back to normal. This pandemic will also pass. I can share some of the experiences that I've had in these 2 years of pandemic. I personally, sometimes people have said I put myself at risk, but I personally made sure that 4 or 5 families at a time would gather together. We would take the necessary precautions, but we kept them engaged and we kept them involved in the Shastras. So that somehow we can keep them, serve them by keeping them strong in their Krishna consciousness. And now as the pandemic is wearing off, most people have been vaccinated. So we are having some small get-togethers with all vaccinated devotees. We are encouraging vaccination. We are having these small get-togethers so that they can get back into the association, personal association of devotees, and their spiritual life may again flourish. Although we've tried to make sure that their spiritual life remains focused on their sadhanas and keeps advancing. But now again, with the association of devotees and with these small events that we have, we can again revive our sadhana and make rapid progress. So those are some ways that I personally am trying in my most humble way to serve the devotees as much as I can. I hope that answers your question in my most humble way. I try to answer it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful answer, and thank you, Mataji, for the lovely questions. We have one more hand that's raised there. I see Her Grace Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Mataji, if you are ready, want to ask a question or share a comment, please unmute
Hare
yourself.
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Eti Shyam Bihari Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Srila Radha Gopinath ki jai. Such a nice way you explain Gopir Bhav Padakamalam, Das Dasanu, Das Bhav. Prabhuji, I have seen you, Eti Shyam Bihari Prabhu and Eti Vrishabhanu Prabhuji is taking class morning 6 o'clock, and there is a 38 Vaishnava in your coming area. Me working 7 days in a week, so not able to attend the class, but I hear the Krishna Katha, and morning, all the morning puja, morning aarti, Mangla aarti, then Guru puja, and then Shishi Bhagavatam class. Oh my God, Prabhuji, you are done so many service. And I have seen Sisi Jagannath Yatra small, the newcomer Vaishnava are dancing like there is a Bhakti Lata beach in their heart, like seeds we are bowing in a planter, and the water is it's a japa, and attentively japa and hearing Krishna Katha. So you and H.G. Vrishabhanu Prabhuji is working hard to give a Krishna conscious H.G. Gita Mataji, Ananta Koti Danpat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji, for today's
My
class.
most humble obeisances at your lotus feet, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, as having you as my god sister is my great fortune. And if I can be of any service to you, I will consider it as my most great fortune. Thank you so much. All the glories that you have bestowed upon me, I believe it or not, I am not worthy of any of it, because I have been blessed with a very wonderful group of devotees. They manage everything. I am just there to kind of supervise or to guide, but they are the ones who are doing everything. So all this glory belongs to them. And I'm very humbly paying my obeisances to all these devotees who have kept me focused in my sadhana and have helped me to perform these small acts of pleasure for Krishna. Thank you so much, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Dandavas Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Koti Koti Danvat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for those wonderful comments and sentiments, and thank you, Prabhu. Just want to see if there is anybody else who may have a question. We do have a little time left. If anyone would like to leave a comment or realization, a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand now, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand, Prabhu. For my side, Prabhu, yes, I would just like to thank you so much for the wonderful class. It was very, very enlightening and enlivening, as Gita Mataji said, to hear from you again. And one takeaway, I think, was when you were mentioning that Dasyam actually being the essence of everything. The mood of Dasyam, serving the Lord, being the essence of everything in relation to the rasas. I remember you were explaining how each rasa has its different mood, but Dasyam being that essence and that foundation of each of those rasas. That was a takeaway for me. And I do have a question, Prabhu. If you have some time, I thought I could maybe
Sure,
just
Prabhuji.
ask that. So you were mentioning, Prabhu, that, at one point that I've heard before as well, that we were with Krishna, in the spiritual world. And for some reason, we fell down to the material world. We were separated due to, I think you mentioned, our misgivings. So I just want to try to understand that, Prabhu, because they say when you are in the spiritual world with Krishna, there's no chance of coming down. So what are those misgivings that were created in our hearts that actually had us separated? Yes,
It's
Prabhu.
a very beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking this. And it's actually explained very nicely in a very small book that was written, where it says that the Jivatmas never fall down. The name of the book is Jivatmas Never Fall Down. And the reason is because if Jivatmas actually fall down, that means there is some deficiency in the spiritual world, right? Because if you go to the spiritual world and you're perfect, otherwise, how would you go to the spiritual world? Then how can you fall down? And so Jiva Goswami explains that the Jivatmas never fall down. What really happens is that our attachment to Krishna needs to increase. Krishna wants us to be even more closer to him. In order to bring us closer and closer, it is his Leela which causes us to develop that failure, which causes us to come down to this material world. Because ultimately, the whole purpose of this material creation is our purification. It is for us to come to that stage where we feel so much separation from Krishna, as it's described, lolyam. When we develop that lolyam for Krishna, it becomes so intense, even more intense than it was when we came to this material world, that now when we go back to the spiritual world, then at that time our attachment to Krishna is multifold more. And so at that time our service to Krishna is also so much more intense and pure. So that's the goal really. So to answer your question, we never fall down. It's another Leela of Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's such a nice explanation. I've never
This is
heard.
what I read and I'm just sharing with you, Prabhuji.
No, of course. Thank you, Prabhu. I've never heard this explained in this way. So it's very beautiful. Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation, Prabhu. Very, very grateful. And I see her Grace Gita Mataji has raised her hand again. So yes, Mataji, please, if you can unmute, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you tell me what is that book and who has written it and where is it available?
That book, unfortunately, is no longer published and no longer available. I was given to understand that ISKCON didn't want to promote that book because it causes a lot of confusion in the mind of devotees, because it's a very advanced subject matter and sometimes very difficult to understand as well. But I do have a copy of that book, and so without publishing it on chat or putting it out for against the wishes of the GBC, I'll share that book with you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your kindness and your compassion. And I don't see anyone else with any hands raised. So with that, we would like to just thank Shyam Bihari Prabhu for joining us today and giving us his wonderful association and narrating such a wonderful, beautiful class on Dasyam. It really has left some imprints on my heart today, Prabhu. Thank you so
I
much.
would like to thank the organizers. They are doing a wonderful service here. I'm so grateful. And I would like to pay my obeisances at all of the lotus feet of all the organizers, because please keep up this service. It's very much required. It keeps the devotees so focused in these bad times. And I'm very grateful that you gave me this opportunity, although I feel I'm so unqualified. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavas Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It's only by the mercy of senior devotees like yourself that we are able to be engaged in service like this and get your association. So thank you so much once again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And yes, Prabhu, thank you so much. And we will move along now to the next part of the program. So we will just go through a few announcements before we conclude the program. So coming up next week, we have His Holiness Rita Bija Maharaj, who will be explaining on the topic of Sakyam, becoming a friend of the Lord. This is the second last part of the series. After this, we will be concluding the series on the 9 processes of Bhakti. We are very excited to have His Holiness Rita Bija Maharaj here to also share his wisdom with us. And also coming up on Sunday, we have a class by His Grace Hari Prasad Prabhu. He'll be giving a class on Krishna Bhakti and Raja Vasa. A very exciting class and a very sweet class by Prabhu. So we would like to encourage everyone to please join us at 6:30 p.m. as well this Sunday. And the upcoming festivals we have on June 6th, we have Apara Ekadasi and Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur Appearance Day. We also have Sri Baladev Vishabhushan Disappearance Day, and we have Nirjali Ekadasi on the 21st. So yes, devotees can please prepare for these wonderful upcoming festivals.
Just a comment, breaking fast on Monday is 6:26 to 11:13 a.m. Probably on the Sunday program, we'll again announce it, just for the sake of devotees. We forgot to put it on the slide today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rangesh Babu, for confirming the breakfast time. And also our ISKCON Atlanta media page. I'm sure everyone is very much aware of this. We have a very huge presence on social media. So please check us out on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All our updates and all our recorded classes are posted on those forums. And we would also like to send prayers out to some devotees who are still facing some difficulties with their health. His Grace Nanda Sutta Prabhu, Her Grace Govardhan Leela Mataji, and also we'd like to send some prayers out to the doctors who are still fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, and for everyone we haven't mentioned as well, we'd like to send some prayers out. So we'll just chant Hare Krishna 3 times in a prayerful mood for these devotees that we have just mentioned. Please, you can join with me, dear devotees. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
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 Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama
Rama,
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 Rama
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
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 Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Jai. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining us in sending out prayers to the devotees who've been affected by some health crises. And we also like to thank everyone who has joined us and continues to join us for our midweek and Sunday programs. We'd like to encourage everyone to please spread the word and get other devotees involved in also coming aboard and relishing the wonderful nectar that is Krishna Katha that is being presented by these programs. So, with that being said, we will conclude the program today. So, thank you, everyone. Please be safe out there. And hopefully, we can see everyone soon in person at some point. Up until then, we will continue to have your association on this forum. Thank you so much for joining us. Please take care. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We will now take leave. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna,
Dandavas.
Dandavat Pranams.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandot Pranam.